I'm Will.
And I'm Steven.
And this is the Post-Peak Chronicles. So, Steven, what do we have going on today?
We got a great guest, someone I've been trying to interview for a while. You know, it's a small world. We're just finding out we have a lot of mutual friends. Mark Porter. How are you doing today, Mark Porter?
I'm good. I'm surviving the rain.
Are we all?
A rare rainy week in San Diego.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself. Tell us your story. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Dallas, Texas. The promised land, I like to tell people. There's a church on every corner, but somehow I never found my way into one.
It's like the Bible Belt of the country. Right?
It is. Yeah, everybody's Christian just because you're Texan. They think you're Christian, but whole different world out there. But never went to church. Never. My dad told us we were Methodist. I figured Methodists had it all out. I had it figured out because we never had to go. We just pray on Christmas, pray on Easter, and we were good.
So you're like, Methodist? All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, I was like, all right, that's what we are. Had a good or normal upbringing. Parents got divorced around 13, started drinking, using drugs, kind of fell off into that whole lifestyle.
Are you still in Dallas at this point?
Still in Dallas. Just about a month after they get divorced, we moved to Ohio. That's where my dad was from. So big city of Dallas, tiny little town in Ohio, like tiny town. So total culture shock for me. Didn't fit in, didn't know anybody. Was just trying to, start to know myself. Parents get divorced, so my life just starts to I'm like, I didn't even know what was going on.
And Ohio's a little rougher than Dallas, right?
It is,
a lot more fighting. People are a lot tougher there, right?
Yeah. It's a bunch of big farm boys and just a totally different world than I knew. And so I think I met some friends. They drank, they were smoking weed already, and so I just jumped right in with that, just really trying to cope with, my mom had left, being divorced. My dad was an alcoholic, so he's trying to get sober, but just couldn't really get his hand around it. So I was in 8th grade at the time.
8th grade. Do you have any siblings?
I had an older brother, 1 year older.
How was he doing?
He was doing all right. I mean, he was super, super smart kid. He was a 4.0 all through high school, college. It was horrible following him because everybody thought I was going to be just as smart as him. And there was no way. I was the complete opposite. I couldn't sit still in school. And so I had all this going on and just a bunch of emotion, bunch of activity. Didn't know what to do with it. It wasn't following the Lord at all. So I had didn't have any way of coping with anything. Right. And so made it through high school, made it through a year or two in college.
But still drinking.
Even getting worse and worse, just kind of progressive. I was starting to skateboard. Getting a whole punk rock scene, and so that was just you were just like angry. You don't even know why you're angry, but I'm angry.
What year is this?
So I graduated high school in '91.
Okay, so late '80s, early '90s. It's all punk rock,
old
school vans.
Yeah. It was a good time to grow up. It was just a lot of angst, a lot of hostility, but again, not even knowing why am I so angry. I think it was just because that's just the culture that you were in. And so I had all that in the background as well, doing a lot more drugs at that time. Started getting in trouble with police a little bit, nothing too major, a couple little fights, smoking weed. I think we got busted a couple times for that, but nothing major. My dad calls me, it was my sophomore year in college. My dad calls me, he's like, Mark, he just moved to Atlanta, Georgia, got remarried, moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
Are you still college in Ohio?
Still in Ohio, yeah, okay. Bowling Green State University. Studying political science. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was like, it was interesting, so I was going that direction. I had no idea what I would do with it, but studying that, get a call from him. He's like, Mark, I got lung cancer. Doctor told me I got 3 months to live. Wow. Like, my dad's my hero. He's sober at this time, gotten sober, so I got to watch him, walk through that, which is a beautiful thing to see. But just rocked me. I think I was 20 years old, and like I said, my dad's my hero. So to hear that, it just again, I had no. Yeah, I was like, how do I deal with this? I was already trying to deal with all this other stuff, and now I get this, and my life just really starts to go off the rails. I went on he passes away. I go on a trip to.
So did he literally die like 3 months?
3 months later, almost to a T. They tried to do some chemo and they tried to do radiation, and his body was just shutting down so fast. The doctor said, if you want a good quality of life for this last 3 months, I don't want to give you radiation. It's just going to make it that much worse. It's not helping, and
just
so
suffering.
Exactly. And so I got to spend the last 2 months with my dad, basically taking care of him again. He took care of me as I was a kid. I was taking care of him as an adult, which was a good thing, but it was hard. I mean, I'm 20 years old. I couldn't wrap my head around it. So he passes away. I go to Costa Rica on a surf trip with some buddies. Met some guys from OB. This is like 2 months after he passed away. Meet some guys that are from Ocean Beach, San Diego. I didn't even know what OB was. They're like, dude, you got to move to OB.
It's the spot for surfing.
Yeah, and I was like, what are you talking about? What's OB? And they're like, San Diego, you got to come, whatever. And so I spent a month there, got back to Ohio, and I was like, man, I have nothing holding me here. I'm gone. And so I moved out to San Diego, moved to OB, and OB just sucked me in, man. Drugs, alcohol, partying, surfing. Just that was the lifestyle. Yeah, right? It was a Tuesday, and we'd be down at the beach with a keg, and you could still take alcohol to the beach on a Tuesday. It was like not a special event. It's just Wednesday, we're just doing this. This is what we do. And so somehow I'm still working construction. I was framing houses in like Rancho Santa Fe, Del Mar, some beautiful houses.
Now, real quick, do you have any direction in life at this point, or is it like I'm working so I can just surf and party and drink and live the surfer life?
That's it. Yeah,
so surfing. Construction is just a means to an end.
Just to make some money, to be able to party on the weekend. Not saving any money, not thinking about the future. Not even thinking I'd be alive at 30, no plans for life. Just let's get through this, get to the weekend, party some more. Just really stuffing all this stuff that I needed to deal with, but had nowhere to even go to even try and deal with it. Had no coping skills, no mechanisms to
even think about. Didn't even know you had trauma of divorce.
No, not at all.
Your dad dying, or just like whatever.
Yeah, I just thought that was just like normal. This is just normal stuff. But in the background, this stuff was just haunting me. And so it would come up, and so I'd drink a little bit more to just stuff it further. I started using even heavier drugs to cope with this stuff and keep it in the background because I didn't want to have to face it. It would slip up every once in a while. I'd be like, get really wasted or whatever, and something, I'd start thinking about my dad and start tearing up, and right away I'd just be like, I don't like this at all. So what do I do with it? So during that time, my mom had gotten saved. She started going to church. She had remarried, started going to church, and so she's telling me she's praying for me. I'm like, yeah, Mom, that's cool, but I'm not against it, but.
It's not my path.
It's not my thing. Yeah,
where's she living at this point?
She's living in Iowa. That's where she grew up. I'd never lived there, but she had moved back there to be with my grandpa who had passed away, and then stayed there with her. She's still got a sister that still lived there, and so she's telling me she's praying for me. I'm an OB. She has no idea how bad I'd gotten. Like I was drinking first thing in the morning at this point. This is like probably 25, 26 years old, just to cope. Actually, I'm like even up into about 30. So just to cope in the morning, I'm drinking just to not get the shakes. It was already, my alcoholism was getting bad. Yeah. And so just to feel normal, I had to have some drinks in me. Still working construction, still, doing the 9 to 5, but I don't know how I never got hurt.
Functioning alcoholic.
Yeah, full on. Yeah.
Now you need the alcohol.
Exactly.
You need it.
Exactly. As I look back now, I'm like, I don't know how I even did anything. Because I couldn't literally do anything without alcohol. It's just, and I couldn't even think about life without alcohol. At first it was, I just couldn't have fun without alcohol. And then it was, I can't live, literally, I can't function without having some alcohol in my system. And so that's going on. My mom has no idea how bad my life had gotten. She'd see me here and there, but it wasn't like she was coming out to San Diego very much. And I wasn't going to Iowa, really trying to hide all this stuff.
Where's your brother at during this time?
So my brother's in Columbus, Ohio. He went to Ohio State University and then just stayed there. Got married, had a kid, doing well. Later in life, he becomes an alcoholic. So we had to walk through that with him.
Now, just pause real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Dad was an alcoholic. You were an alcoholic. Later on, your brother struggled with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's most people don't realize the generational effects on your children if you suffer with alcoholism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not just your issues and your addictions are never in a vacuum.
Right.
It's always going to affect other people.
Right.
And I just want people to hear that. I mean, your brother, 4.0 student, 4.0 in college, Ohio State, family, kids, by all means, successful life, still struggles with alcoholism.
Still struggles,
right?
Hardcore,
So it's kind of like we talk about prison. If you've been to prison, there's a 93% chance your child's going to prison.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, you got it, you're fine.
Right.
There's consequences to your thing, to your stuff, right?
Yeah, 100%. And so I tell people, man, I'm open and honest with my kids. I have 3 boys. One's just turned 8. He's 18. Just graduated boot camp in the Air Force. But I tell him, look, his mom was an addict alcoholic. And I say, look, there's a heavy chance if you ever drink that it's not just going to be fun for a little while, that this is the path that your life could go down. I don't hide my past from my kids, jail, prison, alcoholism, and all that, because I want them to know that this
very easily could happen to anyone.
Yeah, it's happened to me. It's happened to my your grandpa, your uncle. It's in our DNA.
And it's in the DNA of the Air Force, unfortunately.
Right, yeah.
All
any military, right? Yeah. So I'm like, be careful, son. And he's got a great head on his shoulders. He's doing really well.
So you're an OB. You're drinking. You can't function without even get up in the morning. You have to get a drink.
Yeah.
Mom's praying for you. She
Mom's
found
praying
God.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it got to the point, and what really kind of woke me up is I moved to OB to surf. That was the whole deal. I loved surfing, had always been surfing. At the end of my run there, I wasn't even surfing for like 2 years. I'd go look at the water, but I'd be so messed up. I'd be like, I'm not getting in there. I'm going to drown, or it just wasn't happening. And so even though I'm the surfer, I'm not even surfing anymore. It had completely robbed me of the joy of surfing, the joy of what I thought I had in my life.
You just wake up, drink, go to work, go home, drink?
That's about it, yeah. And it's really kind of now shutting myself off from my friends because they're starting to say, man, Porter, you got a problem. You're not just drinking to have fun anymore. Like this one of my friends literally told me, he's like, Porter, you're drinking to kill yourself. Like you're drinking that much. And thank goodness I had some honest friends around me. Like towards the end, this one guy came up to me. He says, Porter, you got to do something. You're going to kill yourself if you keep going down this road. And a lot of friends like wouldn't say that. They're thinking it, but they're not saying it. But thank goodness some guys were like bringing it to my attention.
What are you, like 25, 26 right now?
Yeah, right around 20. I think 26, 27.
Okay.
And so we were supposed to go to Hawaii. All of us were supposed to go to Hawaii to surf. I was still trying to figure out even how that was going to happen. But I paid for the ticket, paid for the place we were all going to stay in. It was the chick I was living with. It was her birthday. We were all going for that. I get a DUI 2 days before we were supposed to leave. And they took my license. I couldn't just go up to the DMV and get like an ID. I had to wait like 10 days to get even an ID. So I couldn't get on the plane. Wow. So all my buddies leave for this trip to Hawaii, which we had planned for like 6 months. I stay back by myself and just completely went off the rails. That's when my buddy comes over. He's like, Porter, you're going to kill yourself if you keep doing this. You got to get some help. And so I called my mom. I don't even remember calling her. And I called and I said, Mom, I got to get out of here. And she comes and picks me up. She flies from Iowa to San Diego to help me fly back out. But I was like, Mom, I can't get on a plane. Like I'm that bad. So she takes me to the hospital. They gave me some medication. She drives me back, a 3-day drive back to Iowa. I'm sleeping the whole time. They gave me some medicine to help the shakes and all that. She gets me in the treatment. And this is like the first time I've been sober for like probably 15 years. Wow. I go to this treatment for 30 days.
What? Middle school to 26 years old. Yeah, it's 15 years.
And just keep going, just drinking the whole time through, every day. And if, whatever, if you have any other substance, let's party, let's do whatever you got. Right. So in rehab, the only way you can get out of rehab or leave the facility is if you go to church with somebody on a Sunday. And so my mom goes to church every Sunday. So I was like, Mama, let's go. I got to get out of here. So I'm gonna go to church with you. I don't really understand what's going on here, but I'll go. So I started going to church with her, and again, nothing against it, but it felt weird for me, and I almost felt like that people were fake. But I can kind of see now it's that they had a joy that I couldn't explain, and something I wanted. And so for me to deal with it, I had to say, well, that can't be real, because I desperately wanted what they had, but I couldn't put my hands around it. So I had to say, well, it's fake. That can't be real at all.
I had a buddy one time before he got saved and came to Jesus. He was like, man, I was hanging around you and all your friends. He's like, I thought you guys were on drugs because you're so happy. I was like, you thought we were on drugs? He's like, there's no way people could just regularly be that happy.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, and I left like freaked out about you guys because you're so happy. I started dying laughing. And yeah, you're right. It was like, to someone who doesn't understand the joy that comes from within, it's fake or it's manufactured or, oh, God bless you, brother. They're just trying to be fake so everyone can, put on their Sunday best so everyone thinks they're happy and they got it all together.
Right. And then that's what I was doing. Like people would come up to me and ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, oh, everything's good. And my life was a train wreck. Right. My life was off the rails. But I figured that's what you had to say because that's what they're telling me. I'm like, how are you guys? And like, oh, everything's good. We're blessed.
I'm good too. I'm blessed too.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, I got to fit in. So I got to tell them I'm blessed.
Is what they call it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just try and fit in with the crowd and go along. And so I go. I was at this rehab for 30 days. I snuck out one day and got drunk. They didn't even know. I don't even know if my mom knows. So, Mom, sorry if you're watching. I come back and I get through that 30 days and I'm thinking, okay, I'm fixed. I got through those 30 days. I made it. And so I come back to OB and with the same friends, same people I was hanging with, same apartment. And within 2 days, I'm right back to where I was. Like I didn't just start drinking a little bit.
Not even escalated.
Just right back at it.
Let me ask you real quick. So you got fully sober in the rehab facility.
Yeah.
No, not fully
for one
sober.
day. Yeah, one day. Yeah.
Took a day off.
Well, I mean, like, the first, what was your streak? Couple days or?
I think it was right in the middle. It's like probably like 14 days. So I made it like 2 weeks, drank, and then 2 weeks.
How was the shaking and the sweating and the detoxification?
That was
process?
horrible. Well, I did most of that on the way to Iowa. Like, so that was detoxing on the way, which I don't even really remember.
I watched an interview with the guy, and he said, the detox was so bad from coming down off drugs. The reason he's never done drugs again was because he said the detox was worse than actually getting sober, and he never wants to even want to attempt to experience that.
Yeah, again. It's brutal. Like alcohol, I didn't know this until so that was the first time I went to rehab. I went to rehab 19 different times throughout my career. 19 times. It was crazy. I tried them all. But every time, like when you detox, especially from alcohol, you can die from detoxing from alcohol. You can't die from detoxing from drugs. You feel like you're going to die, even from heroin. You feel like you're going to, like death is knocking at your door. But detoxing from alcohol can literally kill you.
Is it just because your body becomes so dependent on it?
I think it is, yeah. And your body just goes into a shock. That's why you start shaking, because it's so it needs it needs the alcohol to level out.
And you're waking up to drink just to
level off. Yeah, exactly. And so it's brutal. It's a horrible thing to see. I hear from my mom. It's a horrible thing for her to have to watch, and there's nothing you can really do about it. You just gotta get through like the first 2 days, and then things level off.
Have you felt at the 19 times that you went to rehab? Had you ever felt like I'm gonna die? Had you been that bad to where I'm gonna die?
Yeah, like, one or two times. Yeah. There was when I went. I don't remember which number it was, but I went to a rehab, and the lady looked at me, and she'd been doing it probably 10, 15 years. And she said, I've never seen anybody as bad as you. We got to get you to the hospital. We can't let you detox here. We've got to get you to a hospital because it's that bad. Mm. And I'm like thinking, I've just been drinking. I was on a run, She's like, no, you're literally, you're going to die. I don't know. She saw something that I couldn't see, because you never think you're as bad as you are.
Right.
You always can play it off. Well, I'm not as bad as that dude or as bad as that guy.
Stop anytime.
Yeah, I got this under control. When my life was completely out of control, I kept fooling myself, saying, I think I got this. I think I can handle it.
Now, I don't want to gloss over what you just said. You said you went back to OB, same friends, same apartment, same place. In 2 days, you were back to the same level of severity right away. And I think it's important, I always tell people, and I'm sure people getting out of prison, bad company corrupts good character, right? It's one of my favorite Bible verses. Like, there's no way you can kind of insert, you could, but it's very unlikely you can insert yourself into a terrible situation, terrible upbringing, and thrive. Right. And especially if everyone around you, it's kind of like show me your 5 closest friends, they'll show you your future. Right. If everyone around you is drinking and partying, guess what?
That's where you're going to go.
Drinking and partying too, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, again, we kind of fool ourselves thinking I can handle this. I can go back to this. Those are my buddies. Those are my homies. This is what we did. And so I thought, I went to rehab. I got a hold of this now, and quickly was just off the rails. And they're even looking at me like, Porter, we thought you had this under control. We thought if you go to rehab, then it's like this magic pill you took, and now you can drink socially again. But I was an kind of alcoholic. If I take one drink, I'm off to the races. It's completely over. I'm in Tijuana doing something stupid again, and who knows?
And you had some good friends because they told you that, hey, bro, this is bad. But at the same time, I'm hearing it, and they were like, hey, bro, you need to do something about this. You're drinking to kill yourself. And then you come back, and they're like, all right, you good now? Here's a beer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, here's a beer.
Good job.
Good job, bro. Yeah. So I know it's not them wanting to hurt you.
Right.
But even those, hearing this or watching this, and they see their friends going through it, if you care about your friends that much, then don't bring them back into that same level of destruction.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah, and that's hard because that's where we're at, and this is what we've always done. So how do we navigate that? And it's really, sometimes you just, like, when I come back to OB after I went through prison, came back to OB, I was like, there's people I'll talk to and say hi to, but we're not hanging out anymore. And it's not because I think I'm going to drink anymore. It's just I'm not that person anymore. I can't be around these kind of people anymore.
So you said a total of 19 times?
19 times, yeah.
Was it always the same? Come back to OB, fail. Come back to OB, fail.
Pretty
kind of a lesson you had to learn over and over and over?
Yeah. So I came back to OB, started drinking. Like, I think it was about 2 months later, I called my mom again. I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm like, my whole life is falling apart again, even worse. And so she comes back and gets me. Actually, my aunt comes back and gets me again. We fly out this time. And I go back to another treatment in Iowa. And this is where I started getting in trouble with the law. Like, I got a little bit of stuff in San Diego, but nothing big. A couple DUIs, a couple of fights, nothing that's really stuck. go back to Iowa. I'm in treatment a couple different times, still trying to get back to OB, thinking if I can just sober up enough, I can come back to San Diego and live a normal life, whatever that even looks like. But start getting in trouble with the law in California or in Iowa. I had a breaking and entering, had 3 DUIs, two DUIs in 3 days at one point.
Multiple DUIs in California and multiple DUIs in Iowa.
Yeah, it was racking up, just out of control. And so I got the first time I went to prison. So I'm in and out of treatment, in and out of jail, in and out of jail. Small, tiny town in Iowa. So I keep going in front of the same judge. And eventually this judge is like, Mr. Porter, why do you keep showing up? I mean, I've only been there for 2 years. He said, why do you keep showing up in my courtroom? You know, he knows me by name now. And that's never a good thing to know that the judge knows you, right? So never. I'm like, okay. And so he gave me a couple different chances, and then finally like, I'm gonna have to. He gave me it was a 5-year sentence on this burglary, and then the two DUIs I got where I was on probation. So I go away, supposed to do 5 years. I think I did 10 months. Get out, went through treatment even in prison, which treatment's it's similar, but it's just there's something they do. Get out. I'm never going back to prison. I'm never gonna drink again. Never going back to prison. 1 month later, I'm drinking again. Had a son. So right before I went to prison the first time, had a son with a woman that I met in rehab. He's not even 1 by the time I go to prison the first time. I get out, he's 1 year old, and so I'm like, okay, I got something now to live for, I think.
Right.
And so I'm trying to still change my life around. My mom's still praying for me. I'm trying to do this church thing. It's not hitting me. I say I'm never going back to prison. I'm never gonna drink again. 1 month later, I'm drinking again. Get another DUI. I'm already on parole. So the judge, I'll go in front of the same judge again. He's like, he's like, okay, you're gone again. So they send me back, but they only give me. It was my 3rd DUI, and on parole for a felony burglary. And so they just tacked on. They didn't even add anything on. They just gave me the same sentence. So I go back in, do another 8 months. They shoot me back out on parole, which I don't know why they did that, but they shoot me back out on parole. Same thing. I'm never going back to drinking again. I'm never going back to prison again. But I go back to the same girl, same thing, same hood, same people. So right away, I almost start drinking again, doing the same thing again.
Now, let me ask you this, because I'm sure there are addicts out there, but I want to know your mindset. Was your like a hopeless mindset of like, there's no real solution for me, this is why I keep drinking? I'm not ever going to get over this addiction, because I say, I get out of prison, I'm going to change. I'm going to live for my son. I'm going to sober up. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen. At that point, I think I was at that point to where I don't know if anything can help me. And I think that was kind of a tipping point to where, if nothing's going to help, if nothing is helping me and I just keep getting worse and worse and worse, then what's the point anymore? And so I think I got to that point of hopelessness, that there was nothing. I tried everything. I tried AA, I tried NA, I tried all these different programs, and nothing. I'm not knocking those programs. Those work for a lot of people, but they weren't working for me. I tried Eastern religion. I tried philosophies. I mean, I was reading everything I could in prison, and even when I got out, but I just nothing was sticking. Nothing was helping me. I just got worse and worse. I tried everything man told me to do to get better, and I just got worse. It didn't help until the next time. So I get out the first time, go right back in. Get out the second time, go right back in. Get out the second time, get another DUI. So I'm on parole for felony burglary. Had 3 DUIs. I get my 4th DUI. That's a felony in Iowa for your 4th DUI. So now I got these 2 felonies, and now the judge is like, dude, there's nothing else I can do for you. Right back to prison, but this time I didn't get out in 8 months. I did the whole 5 years. And you got a son that's probably 7.
Yeah, at the end of that.
So whole 5 years. How was the prison experience? I mean, obviously the first time you're worried about, I just got to sober up and get back out there. This time 5 years.
Yeah, I got a little bit of time.
What's that like?
So it was December 21st, 2007. I go back to the jail to go back to prison the last time, the 3rd time. That day I walk into the prison. I walk into the jail. I remember they put the orange suit on you, and usually you just go to this big pod with everybody there, but they put me in my own cell for whatever reason. I think it was because it was so late that night. Right. I go into my own cell. They put me in there, and I couldn't even get on. Like, they give you the mat to put down on the sheet and then a little whatever for a pillow. And I put all that on there, but I couldn't even get in the bed. I was just kind of like sitting in the middle of the cell just going, what in the world is going on? It's like I almost had an out-of-body experience. And I could see myself sitting there, orange suit, tears down my eyes. I got my son. I'm like thinking my life is over. There's completely hopeless. And it was the first time I prayed like a serious prayer. I'd pray, Lord, if you help me here, I'll never drink again. And then the next day you wake up and I'm drinking again. But I remember praying. I said, Lord, I don't know who you are and I don't know who I am right now. But if you'll help me, I'll do anything you want me to do. And I think it was the very first sincere prayer that I'd ever made, that ever came out of my mouth. And I wish I could have seen some lights, or I wish I could tell you that everything changed. But I remember I fell asleep, and I should have never fallen asleep that night. I was high, I was drunk, I was a train wreck, and I fell asleep that night. My mom came to the jail the next morning, drops off. You get 3 things at that jail: a Bible, socks, and underwear. She drops those 3 things off for me. I opened the Bible and just started reading. Didn't even know what I'm reading, but I was like, okay, this is here. This is something. I'll give it a shot, because of that prayer I said the night before. I started reading the Old Testament. The first book I ever read was the book of Hosea, which is a crazy book.
What a book to read.
Yeah, it's gnarly. It didn't even really make sense to me. And I'm like, this is crazy. It's about a prostitute, and this guy, God tells him to marry this prostitute, and they come back together. And it's a story of redemption of what God has done for us. But I didn't see it then. I was just like, man, this is crazy. And so I keep reading it. After 30 days, I finally get to the prison. And I'm in the day room reading the Bible because I just kind of committed myself to this. And this guy comes up to me. He was doing I didn't know this at the time. He's doing a double life sentence on a double murder. Life in Iowa is life. He's never getting out. And he says, Porter, do you know what you're reading? I said, I have no idea. He's like, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what to read every morning, and then we'll get together every night and we'll go over it. He's like, will you commit to that? I was like, yeah, I've got nothing else. He's like, Jesus is the only way you're gonna stay out of here. I was like, okay, let's do this. And so he gives me 20 chapters every morning to read.
20 chapters?
20 chapters.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I was like, 20 chapters, bro? I've never even read the Bible. I was like, 20 chapters. He's like, what else do you got to do?
Absolutely nothing.
Right, yeah. You're and they had weights in Iowa and in the Bible. He's like, we'll work out together and we'll read the Bible.
So he's kind of mentored you.
Yeah, complete disciple, man. I didn't get it. But the crazy thing about this guy is, so I'm a white guy. He's a black guy. He's a nation. He grew up Nation of Islam Muslim. His parents had known Malcolm X. He grew up in Kansas City. Knew that whole scene. That was his scene. He was in prison at the time I met him. He had been in for 32 years. He said the first 27 years of my life, he was like the imam of the prison, running the Muslim faith, and everybody would come to him. He was the shot caller, and he had an experience with Jesus that radically changed his life. He leaves all that. He told his family, I found Jesus, or Jesus found me. And they said, if you become a Christian, we'll never write to you again. We'll never visit you again. We'll never send you money again. You're dead to us, basically. And he said, I can't deny what happened in my life. So he becomes Christian and starts reaching out to guys that he sees coming in that are just searching and looking for hope and for help. And he starts pouring into them. And he grabbed hold of me and just beautifully started pouring into my life.
Well, I want to hear more about this discipleship of this guy.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Just imagine you lock all of these violent kids together. and as a kid, you're trying to impress your peers. Yeah. And then you grow up in this gang culture to where you're taught. The gang culture teaches us to be suicidal because it tells us to never deny what set we claim, even if somebody's holding a gun to us, even if it leads to us fighting or dying. The bravado, because that's what young boys do. Young boys want to be a part of something that's brave. I like to analogize it to sometimes being involved in a game. Kids, it's easier than playing football. Like a young boy wants to be a part of something.
And we are back. So we were talking about you finding a disciple, or your discipleship in prison. And you had a lot of ups and downs, but you finally got 5 years in prison. And we're not talking about 5 years, do 10 months, 5 years, 8 months. We're talking about the judge sat you down. So you're really doing your time.
Right.
And you really reached out to God.
Right.
And someone reached out to you.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah. So he starts discipling me. We're reading the Bible every morning. We're getting together every night, going over it. Our Bible study starts to kind of grow. He's getting more people in. And after it's probably only like 6 months in. So if you read 20 chapters a day, you read the Bible in 3 months, you read the whole Bible. And so we get done, and I was like, okay, now what do we do next? He's like, we start over. We're reading from Genesis to Revelation. We're reading all the way through. And I was like, okay, so we get through it again. I'm like, okay, now what? And he's like, we read it again. This is what we read. This is what we do. So the Bible study's growing. It's happening. 6 months in, he's like, Porter, you're going to be a pastor someday. And I was like, hold on. There's no way. Like public speaking was like the biggest fear of my life growing up. He's like, no, you're going to be a pastor someday. And we had an inmate-led service at the prison to where we could lead it. There were people would come in and lead services, but there was an inmate-led services. The guy that was leading it, Wayne Smith, he gets transferred to another prison. So it opens up, and they got to find somebody or they're going to shut it down. So they're like, Porter, you're going to take it over. And I'm only been following the Lord like 6 to 8 months at this point. I don't even really know who I am or really what the Lord is doing. But he's like, you're taking this thing over. You're going to run this thing. And so I started leading the service, start leading this Bible study, still trying to figure it out. And he just keeps pouring into me, just keeps, encouraging me, discipling me, building me up. And everything is starting to come together. The more you read the Bible, the more this connects to this, and you see how this is connected, and everything's just starting to make sense. And just growing and growing and growing. And so we do that. I write a pastor at my mom's hometown. I wrote 26 pastors in this little town. I wrote them all. One dude writes me back, and it happens to be her pastor. And so I started a conversation with him and thinking about it. I was like, I think God's got a call on my life. I need to go. I want to get out, go back to school, maybe be a pastor, just even see what that would look like. And he said, man, I'll totally help you out when you get out. Get hold of me.
We're like, is this Mark Porter?
Yeah.
We're not answering this. Yeah. We know about this guy.
Yeah, we read about him in the newspaper, man. And so I do the 5 years, keep teaching and preaching and growing in the Lord in great ways.
So it was almost a good experience for you.
It's probably
5 years in prison.
I think prison was the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, it's weird to look back and see that prison, but at that time of my life, for that amount of time, the Lord sat me down. In Psalm 23, it says that the Lord will lay you down beside still waters. That there's times in our lives where we're running and running and running, and sometimes even doing good things, but there's a moment where the Lord's like, this guy's not getting it. I need to lay him down. I'm going to make him lay down. I'm not going to ask him to lay down. I'm not going to give him an opportunity to lay down. I'm going to make him lay down. And the Lord laid me down for those 5 years to really just pour into my life. And I needed, I kept thinking I was going to get parole again. Like maybe after a year or two I get parole, but no, I did the whole sentence. And I needed that whole 5 years because God just poured into my life in that time where I would have never had that time to have the experience that I had.
And when we were on our break, we talked about, reaching that bottom, right? And a lot of people in the first half would say, oh, you had so many bottoms, right? Yeah. But that's their perception, right? Everyone has their own bottom, their own despair where you have no direction but up.
Right.
And it sounds like that prison, that sentence of 5 years, not 10 months, not 8, but 5 years was your true bottom.
That was it.
Where you were able to reach up and go all the way to the top.
Yeah, amen.
So let's talk about that. You get out.
Yeah, and so I get out, and even when I first made that prayer when I got saved, December 21st, 2007, I really felt God calling me then. I didn't even know what that would look like to go back to OB and reach people that looked like me, like that were going down that road, but just didn't know where else to go. Like I was hearing go here, do this, but nothing was helping me. But nobody was telling me about Jesus at this time. Nobody was saying, come to church, try Jesus. That's going to help you. I know I wasn't hearing that. And maybe I was hearing it. I was just kind of pushing it off to the side thinking, that's not for me. Maybe that's for you. Yeah. And so I knew I was supposed to come back to OB. So I go back to college, go back to college, always in the back of my mind. Right as I get out of prison, started going to that church where that pastor's at. I went to Celebrate Recovery there. The guy that was leading worship, his sister comes in. I see her, and I was like, oh, my gosh. I wasn't looking for a woman or a girl or anything at that time, but she walks in. I was like, that's the one. I prayed in prison. I prayed for, I said, Lord, I'd love to have a wife that would love my son as much, like it's her own son. I'd love to have a woman that's full of the Holy Spirit, a woman that can pray, a woman that loves to pray, and a woman that can sing. Because you're in prison for 5 years, you're hearing all dudes sing. It'd be nice to hear what. Like, give me a woman's voice, please. Right? Yeah. Give me something. And as I got to know her, she feels all those things. She loves my son just like it's her son. Loves the Lord deeply, more than she loves me. Is full of the Holy Spirit. A woman that loves to pray, and she can sing. So God checks off all these. So pray specifically is what I always tell people. It's if something's on your heart, pray specifically. Not that God will always answer that way, but He longs to hear the desires of your heart. And so get married, have 2 kids. I graduate school. I get a church in Iowa, tiny little town. And they took a chance with me. The only thing on my application was I led Bible study in prison, and I led a service in prison. And it wasn't that I was going to prison to visit. I was in prison leading these things. And they took a chance on me. They were like, okay, come in. And so I had this church for 2 years, but always in the back of my mind, I'm like, I got to get back to OB. I got to get back to OB. This is what God had placed on my heart. And so after 2 years, some crazy things happen, some doors open. We come back to OB to plant that church that we started 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
So this was 2000. I think we moved back in 2014. And started to get things ready, getting a team together, find a location, and God just kind of miraculously again opened 1 million doors for that to happen.
Now, there's a lot of people. I mean, you talked about your growing up in your early 20s, but kind of describe the OB scene. A lot of people don't know about it. It's not just like you're going to La Jolla in San Diego, right? You're going to OB. Tell us about what is OB to those who don't know about that. Ocean Beach, San Diego.
Yeah, so Ocean Beach is like Venice. In San Diego, like Venice Beach, and if you know what that is, so a lot of hippies, a lot of drugs. I mean, even when I was growing up, or not growing up, then when I was there in my 20s, if you needed drugs, you came to OB to get them. I mean, and you could get them right now, and you still can today.
People live in their vans in the parking lot on the beach.
Yeah. It's an old little hippie. It's never really changed. Still this old school vibe. Not gentrified yet. It's still, it's like an old
still
San Diego.
A lot of old punk rockers there.
Yeah,
Isn't the saying
totally different.
OB from the womb to the tomb?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you get sucked in, yeah, exactly. You get sucked in, and it's a cool little community, but it's rough. It's got its dark sides. At night, it's a totally different animal than it is during the day. Like you're walking, people are nodding out on the seawall. There's syringes all around. And it's a totally different world.
And that's the reason you wanted to go back.
Exactly, to reach those people, to give them a hope, to point them in the right direction, to say, look, I see where you're at. I've been there. Jesus helped me. I think he can help you. I know he can help you if you'll surrender to him, if you'll give your life to him.
Now, we talked about on the break before we came back on, your turning point was in prison. You never had to go to rehab after.
No.
Those 5 years.
That was it.
Put you right back on the path. You never had another craving. You got a whole new direction in life, correct?
Yeah, whole new direction. Yeah, it really just kind of took off and never looked back. Never looked back at the past. And I've glanced back at it. I'm thankful for it because it made me the man who I am today. It gave me a heart to reach those kind of people. It gave me a story to be able to reach and assimilate and have empathy for those kind of people, the kind of people that I was. And so that's even so as we started the church, those are the kind of the people we were reaching. We were like 80% of our church was in recovery. 80% of our church has gone through some kind of addiction. A lot of them had been through jail, been in prison. A lot of them are military. I was never military, but a lot of them are ex-military that are just kind of trying to put their life back together. How do I live a civilian life? And I can't relate with you there, but I've had the same struggles with alcohol and homelessness and drugs and all that. And so,
how does that make you feel as a pastor? Your congregation is kind of the roughest of the rough.
I always say we're a bunch of jacked up fools on fire for the Lord. That's what our church is.
And I'm sure more than other churches, you got to have a lot of grace and a lot of mercy for these struggling. And, like you went to rehab 19 times. So you see this guy in your church in and out of rehab. You can't be like, what is wrong with you?
Right. Yeah. I get it.
That was me. I get it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard. It's a hard ministry because you'll see guys do really, really well for
come out of the gates on fire.
Yeah.
Right?
They just want to do everything. And then all of a sudden, like in one instant, one bad thing happens and they just slide right back down. And usually, like we talked earlier, you don't just kind of slide back to where you were. You go a little bit deeper and it gets a little bit darker and a little bit heavier, the stuff that you're having to deal with. So I've seen numerous times where God has brought people up and then they fall out, or sometimes they just disappear. And we have no idea what happened to them. They're gone. We've had them for a couple months. They stop showing up. Nobody knows where they're gone, where they went. And so it's kind of heartbreaking. During the hardest thing about this ministry was during COVID, when everything shut down, the churches shut down, NA groups, AA groups shut down, because most of our guys kind of do that as well. Is I did 11 funerals during COVID from people overdosing on fentanyl. 2 guys from alcohol, 9 from fentanyl. And so I'd only done 2 funerals up to my whole pastoral career up to that point. But during COVID, it was just like my wife was scared to answer the phone because it was like almost every month we were getting another call. So and so passed away. And these are people we'd done life with, had been in our church, had been in our home. My kids knew them. And so it was a heartbreaking, that was a brutal time.
Isolation and depression, and you're doing community and life with people that give you encouragement, and now it's all stripped away from you.
Exactly. Yeah. That was we started doing church in our front yard because the church we were renting from, they got shut down. They couldn't do it. So we were like, well, we can't just do it on Zoom. We tried that for a little bit, but there's no community that way. Right. And our people needed community. So we were like, dude, come to our front yard. We'll have a service in the front yard. The neighbors were like watching us do this thing. Like, what in the heck's going on with these people? But it was actually kind of a cool experience to be able to do that. But it was heartbreaking.
So tell us about some of the things you're doing now. Tell us about your church. Tell us about your ministry. Tell us about your tattoos. Everything you're doing. What's Mark Porter doing now today?
Yeah. What is your post P?
Yeah. So got out, went back to school, became pastor in the church. And actually, as I told you earlier, man, we're actually shutting down the church, not this weekend, but next weekend, because the Lord has opened up so many opportunities for me to speak outside the church. And so I'm going to be going to a bunch of different rehab facilities, getting into Donovan prison, hopefully to get into some of the juvenile halls as well. And so we're going to be taking the church outside the building is how we're kind of looking at it. It's going to be
running separate ministries in different buildings.
Correct. Yeah. Visiting like once, sometimes twice a week, going to different rehab facilities, Christian rehab facilities, just spreading a message of hope. Again, those are my people, so I can relate with them. I can give them some hope. Where a lot of those people are coming in just completely hopeless, like thinking life is over, and like I did. But you can breathe some life into them, show them that Jesus isn't done with you. If you're still breathing, God hasn't finished your story yet. So to be able to share there. And so God's really opened up some amazing doors. It's going to be called Coram Deo Ministries. Coram Deo is Latin for in the presence of God. So we're taking the presence of God to the people outside the church. The Lord has been gracious. He helped us open a tattoo shop at a church. Actually, it's at a sister church of ours in Claremont.
What's the tattoo shop?
It's called Saints and Sinners. Saints and Sinners Tattoo. So Saints. And what's crazy is that I do so much ministry tattooing people as much as I did at the church. Like, people will come in, and not all of them are Christian. A lot of them are, because they know who we are. But they'll come in, and as you're tattooing somebody, you're there for an hour, sometimes 2-3 hours.
Time to talk.
Yeah, so they just start spilling their guts. And I've got pictures of Jesus around, and so they can kind of catch the vibe, I think. And it's at a church, so I think they kind of see what's going on. And all of a sudden, people just start opening up to you, and they'll tell you their whole life story. And so we're doing ministry as I'm tattooing them. It's open. We've had people come to church because they've gotten a tattoo. I've baptized two people because they got a tattoo, never came to the church, but they're like, man, I got to get baptized. Can we do this thing? And I was like, dude, the ocean's right there. Let's go. It's not that far away. We got the biggest pool in the world, a couple blocks down the road.
Let's cover your tattoo, then wrap it up before we dunk you.
Right. Yeah. Do it the right way.
Yeah.
I started an online fitness because I think part of recovery, one of the greatest things, and you know this very well, that one of the greatest things you can do in recovery, or if you've been in any kind of an addictive situation, is to start taking better care of yourself, start taking care of your health.
Sounds familiar.
All right. Yeah. And so I started an online fitness thing to where I do get your nutrition dialed in, get your fitness dialed in for 90 days or however long you want to do it. But also I give them a 90-day Bible reading program. I give them a book called Not a Fan by Kyle Idleman, kind of get you back into spirituality, get you back in check. So it's not just get physically fit, but get mentally fit, get spiritually fit, just the wholeness of what you need to do. Yeah,
that's our concept. It's mind, body, spirit. Most rehabs are mind and spirit.
Right.
But we forget the whole component of body. And then, we say you got to replace one addiction with another. And oftentimes that's fitness, right? Once you feel that good feeling, or you start seeing results, you're addicted.
Right.
But for something good.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a productive kind of, you get the endorphins going and kicking. You're like, oh my gosh, you start to see results. You start getting little wins. You start to see, I'm getting stronger. My body's changing a little bit.
Yeah, nothing like it.
Yeah. You can stack those wins. That'll change the rest of your day. That'll change the rest of your future. And so really trying to tie all those things together has been a beautiful thing. And a lot of people that come aren't Christian, but they're like, okay, I'll check it out and walk away, with some kind of faith, or at least pointed in the right direction.
Now, what's this ministry's name?
It's just called Porterhouse Fitness.
Porterhouse Fitness. That's your Instagram, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah. So just on there, but it's even been cool. Like even we look at that even as a ministry. Okay, I'm gonna get you in with fitness, but on the back door, this is what it's really about. It's all about the Lord. Everything we do is about the Lord, to glorify Him and to push people into Him. So again, we get people that aren't Christian come in, try and get fit. And I'm like, hey, here's a book for you. I don't even ask if I can send it to you. I'm just sending it to them. Here's a 90-day Bible reading program. Do with it what you want. And I've seen some great fruit come out of that.
So every time we talk to somebody, I like to say that everyone's prison isn't 4 walls in a sink, right? So when we talk about post-prison, prison being the thing that kept you from being the best version of yourself. As I listened to this story, even though you did 5 years in prison, even though you did 10 months in prison and 8 months in prison, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, your prison was your alcoholism, your addiction.
100%.
That was the thing that kept you in prison, almost freed you.
Right. Yeah. Amen.
You
know?
Amen. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. The bondage that I had was alcoholism. It was like this big ball I was carrying around that was just chained to my leg. And everywhere I went, I was trying to get rid of it, and I could not shake it. I would try and shake it, and really it just kept growing and growing and growing as your addiction gets worse and worse and worse. I think I was more free in prison than I'd ever been anywhere else in my life. I had a freedom and a joy and a peace and a contentment that I had in prison that I'd been searching for my whole life, but I could never find it. I could never get my hand on it. I got glimpses of it, but I could never put my hand on it. But when I was in prison, walking with the Lord, He poured those things into me. So I was a free man, inside the prison itself, because like you said, freedom came there. The Lord Jesus came and just blew up my life there. And really it ended up being, like I said earlier, the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right. And another thing you talked about, every time you felt these earlyhood childhood traumas and losing your father, and every time those feelings would arise, you would drink because you never want to face it.
Yeah.
So once you became sober and once you found God, had you ever had the chance to face it, or it just never, those feelings never arose before? Did you actually deal with those issues?
Yeah, no. So I got to deal with him. So the guy that was mentoring me, his name was Mr. Elam. He kind of brought those things up. He's like, okay, let's deal with this. Let's talk about this stuff. And I'm first time like that. I don't want to talk about this, and especially I don't want to talk about it to you. Right. We're in prison. I don't want to start crying in prison. He's like, no, Porter, it's all right. We need to deal with this stuff so you can move forward. You got some stuff in your past. I mean, the guy was wise. I still get the right to him. They won't let me visit him because he was in the prison that I was in, and so it's a security risk. And hopefully someday I can go see him again, but I write to him and talk to him on the phone, at least talk to him about once a year, write to him about every other month. But he was just wise beyond his age. And he literally, he's like, dude, you're a 13-year-old kid still. Like your mentality, like when you start using drugs and alcohol at a young age, you don't mature past that. You kind of stunt your maturity. So I was still this little kid trying to, missing my dad, missing my mom when she got divorced. I'd stunted my growth because I started drinking then to try and cope. And instead of coping with it, I just shoved it all away. He's like, we got to get this all on the table and deal with it, or you're still going to be this little kid wanting your dad, wanting your mom still. And so he really walked me through all that stuff. And I don't know where he got all this wisdom from the Lord, but he did so much for me in my life. And so that's another reason I want to try and help as many people as I can. I saw what he was doing, and I was like, that's it. That's the reward. That's if you can do that and reach as many people as you can. There's a verse, Hebrews 11:6, that he says that he's a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. And if we diligently seek the Lord, I diligently sought drugs, alcohol, money, sex, women, all this stuff, but none of it filled me. None of them gave me the what I was looking for. Once I started diligently seeking the Lord, I got more of Jesus. That's the reward. We get more of the Lord. We get more of His Spirit. And so I want to take that in and say, thank you, Lord, but then I want to be able to give it out to other people. Yeah, that's the reward.
It's funny you talk about your mentor, double murder, double life sentence, but he's not in prison.
Right.
That's not his prison.
Not at all.
He's fulfilling his calling
right.
in prison, and he knows that's why he's there. And I'm sure every day he has a joy that he, supernatural peace that surpasses all understanding.
Right.
And he loves mentoring guys. He's like, this is my calling for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem here.
Right. No, he was probably the happiest dude you'd ever meet, doing a double life sentence, never going to get out, but had, like you said, had a joy that was just, it would shake you. It would overwhelm you. It was again, and almost like when you see it, you're like, that can't be real. But then you get to know him, and it's as real as can be. It's a wild thing. So to be able to help people, to be able to give what the Lord has given to me, and then see it in their lives has been a beautiful thing. That's what drives me. That's what I get up in the morning to want to do. That's what I go to sleep thinking about. How can I help the next guy out? Lord Jesus, how can you use me to help somebody else to see you just like what happened in my life?
Awesome. Those people that got hurt are the people that were you had to go through all this so you could help those type of people. Right. And you can reach alcoholics that I can't reach. Right. And we all can reach people that I can't reach, but we all have to go through that story to be able to reach those people. So before we wrap up, how can we reach you?
How can you reach me? Instagram, Porterhouse Fitness on Instagram is my Instagram for the tattoos. It's Porterhouse Tattoos, and then the tattoo shop is Saints and Sinners Tattoo Shop. Okay. Cool. Love to connect with anybody that's out there.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Your story is inspiring. I mean, I would hope that almost anyone that struggles with addiction has an ending like yours. Yeah, and your story's still being written. So, continue reaching our community, continue helping people, continue pushing fitness. That's also a big passion of ours, the mind, body, and spirit, all three. And, you're an inspiration to the OB community. I knew OB. I used to go to the dog park all the time. When I was a kid, we'd come out to San Diego, I'd go to OB. And I'm glad there's someone in that community reaching that community.
Yeah, amen. God's been good.
Absolutely.
It's definitely been a pleasure meeting you, and definitely been a pleasure hearing your story. I always say that in order for people to really appreciate where you're at, they have to know where you've been, what you went through. And hearing this story today, I hope that you guys can appreciate where he's at and learn from where he's been. It's been a pleasure. And once again, I'm Will.
And I'm Steven.
And this is the Post P Chronicles.